We are here today with somebody who is very familiar to us, our very own Laura Briggs, who is Director of Public Policy at Fantini Research. And Laura has just released her legislative outlook on the gaming industry for 2021. And she's here today to tell us some of the things that she thinks will happen in the coming year in the state legislatures across the country. So Laura, there's the expectation that 2021 will be a busy year, in part sports betting expansion, a continuation of what we've seen over the past couple of years, and also as legislatures react to the need to raise more revenues following the COVID pandemic. What do you expect generally from this coming year?
Hi, Frank. Well, generally, I expect there to be a lot of activity this year on sports betting and potentially iGaming. I think that, like you said, the pandemic is causing issues with state budgets, and they're going to be looking to fill budget gaps. And gaming's always something that's easy to look at for that. But I also think that the legislation, it can't be a quick fix. So we'll see some action, but I'm not sure we'll see as much action or as quick as people think that we might.
Laura, there are several very specific areas that we know will be addressed. One of them is sports betting. What are one of the or two of the states that you think we should look for in sports betting this year?
I think we'll see progress in Connecticut and New York this year, given the recent comments from their governors. Obviously, there are still lots of issues in both states, and we'll see how those get worked out. But the support from the New York governor for mobile sport, to expand to mobile sports betting, is encouraging. And in Connecticut, I think with the tribes and the governor having discussed the issue now for a couple of years, and both the governor and the tribes have used the word modernization for their gaming industry recently. And I think that that probably indicates that they're going to look at sports betting and potentially iGaming.
Talking about online gaming, that seems to be following sports betting.
Mm-hmm.
As some states, Pennsylvania being an example, that Michigan's another, that in legalizing sports betting, they've also said, well, geez, we might as well legalize online gaming too, since we've got online sports betting.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any states that you see, in addition to the ones we've discussed, that might act on online casino games as well?
Yeah, I do think that Connecticut's a good candidate for that, with some of the comments that have come out of there recently. But also Indiana, we've got Senator John Ford of Indiana, who's promised to introduce an iGaming bill this year. And there was some talk last year out of Maryland about introducing legislation for an online gaming study. And I think the pandemic kind of cut that effort short, but I wouldn't be surprised if it resurfaces.
In New York, all the attention's come on sports betting. Is New York also considering online gaming?
Not to my knowledge, but if they manage to expand to mobile sports betting, I would see online casino gaming as something that would follow eventually, as I think it will in a lot of these states. But there's been the uncertainty of the Wire Act case, and that may clear up soon. And who knows, with all of the states shut down during the pandemic, and the positive news that came out of Pennsylvania and New Jersey's online casino industry during that time, I think that boosts the efforts in all the different states for potentially considering that.
Every year we have some perennial states that talk about legalizing casinos or lottery or horse racing. Two of them that come to mind are neighboring states, Alabama and Georgia. Do you see much chance for activity in either or both of those states this year?
I think there's an increased chance for activity in both states this year, given the recent gaming study that was done in Alabama, and the drive for sports betting in Georgia. I think will make both of those states. I think the conversation will be increased in both of those states. Now, the chances of passing, we'll see.
Okay. Another area that has gotten attention in certain states is this idea of distributed gaming or slot routes where you allow taverns, casinos, liquor license holding area entities, truck stops, and those kinds of businesses to have 5 or 6 slot machines each. And as we have seen in Illinois, that could in aggregate create a huge industry. And in Illinois' case, they actually take in more money through the slot routes than they do through the state's casinos. We've seen a number of states, Pennsylvania, Missouri, discuss this. We see where just recently, this past few days, the Tavern Owners Association, Indiana, saying us too. Any thoughts as to whether there will be progress to legalize slot routes in any states this year?
I think there'll be progress in Pennsylvania and Missouri. There are issues, ongoing issues between stakeholders in both of those states that have to be ironed out. So when we say progress, I do think they'll be discussed. The interesting thing with distributed gaming, in my opinion, is the Virginia situation where they've temporarily legalized the so-called skill games that are there, which they operate very similarly to the games that operate unregulated in Pennsylvania and Missouri. They agreed to legalize the games for a year, so that those games will be banned come July of this year. And I think that it'll be interesting to see how they handle that, whether the ban takes effect or whether there's an effort to continue to allow those machines to operate. Under the model they're using now, they're contributing about $12 million to the state budget per month. So it would be interesting to see if they actually continue that ban. And then in Pennsylvania and Missouri, obviously the stakes are a little bit higher because they've got established casino industries that oppose expansion of those games, but the games already exist. So, they've got to eventually figure out how to handle that issue.
Yeah, we know that Penn National has been pretty loud in their opposition to slot routes, even though they operate some slot routes themselves, which they say they do as a defensive matter.
Right.
So there are established industries to oppose the slot routes. And I guess the other argument is that the illegal games are already there in the various fraternal organizations and veterans halls, so might as well make them legal, and in that case also open up a market for the mainstream slot machine companies.
Sure. And then, in certain states such as Missouri, those games operate in lottery retail locations, so they compete directly with the lottery as well. And so there's incentive there to legalize video lottery machines instead, so that the lottery can recoup some of their losses and compete in the industry.
Most of the action in the United States, being a federal system, comes on the state level, but the federal government and Congress also affects gaming sometimes. Do you see anything happening federally?
Well, federally, we've got a new presidential administration coming in. So obviously there's some discussions there about how that's going to affect the gaming industry. And there's some concern that there could be a potential nationwide lockdown that would affect non-essential businesses. I don't think that Joe Biden has said he's in favor necessarily of a nationwide lockdown, but of more of like health mitigation, increases in testing, and he doesn't seem favorable to shutting down the economy again. So I'm not sure that that's a big concern, but it is an immediate concern. So we'll see how that plays out. And also, the Biden administration appears to be more friendly to tribal gaming issues. So I would assume that there will be some changes there, probably in favor of some of these longstanding tribal issues, such as the Mashpee Casino in Taunton, or Massachusetts, the 2 tribes in Texas that are trying to get Class II gaming. I think that those are some issues that we could see resolved with a Biden administration.
One of the things we have now is we have a Native American who's going to be Secretary of the Interior.
Mhm.
And I guess just her recommendations are going to be a little bit more tribal friendly. One of the big issues, as you know, is the court decision that says that if a tribe was not recognized in the 1934 Indian Reorganization Act, then subsequent federal approval of it does not give it full tribal rights, including gaming.
Right.
And I suspect there's a chance that legislation to uh, correct is probably the wrong word, but to change that, to give them recognition probably has a better chance now than it did in the past.
Absolutely. It's part of the plan that Joe Biden has had on his website for tribal relations. Is a clean fix of that legislation to allow land and trust the
Okay, good.
process to be a little
Very
easier and more clarified.
And then the other major issue that we hear about a lot is the Department of Justice's under Trump, under President Trump, their opinion that the 1961 Wire Act bans online interstate gaming.
Mhm.
But of course, the Obama-Biden Department of Justice took the opposite view, and I suspect
Right.
the Biden-Harris DOJ likewise will take the opposite view.
I agree. I think you're right about that. I think that a new Justice Department is not going to continue the appeal. I'm not sure that it's worth it at this point when the argument is that um, the they're not there's no evidence they're planning to enforce the issue against lotteries, and lotteries or the New Hampshire lottery brought the case. So I don't see it being a big priority for the Biden administration to continue this appeal.
Okay, great. We covered a lot of ground, Laura, in a short
Mhm.
period of time. Are there other significant topics you'd like to raise?
Well, there's going to be lots of significant topics, I would say, and I think that the new series that we're starting with Public Policy Insights will be a good segue into allowing some of the thought leaders in the industry to answer that question for you.
Okay, great. Uh, just for anyone watching this, if they would like a free copy of Laura's 2021 preview, they can go to www.fantiniresearch.com, and there will be a button on the homepage that you can click on and order a copy via email. Laura, thank you very much for your insights.
Thanks, Frank.